Software-defined networking (SDN) is the buzzword these days. However, there is a lot of elements that come together to form the SDN. Many of these components are traditional networking devices, however, there is a catch to this. In a layer of virtual abstraction that separates some of this network functionality, but more on that later in the video. Now here is a wall on fire, a firewall, oh yeah. Now a firewall could be hardware, software or virtual and uses rules on packets with types of filtering. These functionalities will become important as we go through the video. Now another type of network component is known as an IPS or an IDS. An IPS is known as an intrusion prevention system, which is proactive and preventative, whereas an IDS stands for intrusion detection system, which is passive but alerts. Knowing this functionality will become important as we go through the video. And let's take one more network component known as a router. A router has many functionalities, but let's just focus on network address translation (NAT). Now of course there are many other network components, but let's just focus on these three for the purposes of explaining SDN, software-defined networking. But before we explain SDN, we need to understand that modern virtualization of networks and the associated technology has a layer known as Network Function Virtualization (NFV). And this is alternatively also referred to as Virtual Network Function (VNF). But I will refer to it as NFV, Network Function Virtualization. So the objective of NFV is to decouple functions, that is the functionality such as firewall management, intrusion detection, network address translation and any other type of network function that may be apparent on a hardware device. You see, cloud service providers historically struggled to keep up with quick deployment of hardware devices, and so the ETSI, European Telecommunications Standards Institute, formalized the NFV standards. And here's a bonus exam tip to sum up NFV. Think of the network function virtualization as virtualizing the network services themselves, e.g. the what. Or put simply, abstracting the software functionality away from the physical device. And the reason this NFV virtualization layer is important because the SDN builds on top of it. And so let's look into the SDN, the software-defined networking, which you can think of as managing the traffic flow, e.g. the how. You can think of the SDN as a centralized network intelligence hub. And this centralized hub gives you the overall networking control over all the NFV functions. Technical keynote: the SDN is a conceptual term, but you can think of the SDN in terms of this centralized hub, which are visualized here on the screen. Now, within the SDN, there are three separate layers, or planes. And these are the management plane, the control plane, and the data plane. The data plane is the bottom layer, where all the physical infrastructure and network devices reside. And through the network function virtualization (NFV) we mentioned earlier, all these devices become virtualized, which can then be managed through the control plane, which is the second layer. And the management plane sits on top of the control plane at the very highest level that manages all the business apps that manage that underlying control plane via North Bridge interfaces. North being facing upwards, and you can think of the control plane as southbound, e.g. facing downwards towards the data plane. Or in other words, the management plane is the most idiot-proof plane, whereas the data plane is the most complicated plane. And the control plane is the middleware or the broker that makes all this possible. Now, for any viewers who are still confused between the synergy between an SDN and an NFV, I just want to refocus on this point to make it crystal clear, as this will be important for your exams. The SDN and NFV functions are complementary, not competing. Remember that the NFV is what makes the SDN possible by pulling in all the virtualized functions into a centralized management plane. And you can think of the control plane as a technical arm of the management plane. And the data plane is quite simply the physical devices and the data on them, which are forwarded to the control plane, and the ultimate goal of SDN is to centralize network intelligence, e.g. the control plane, away from the physical devices, e.g. the data plane. And one other bonus tip, you may hear the term SD-WAN, which is an extension of the SDN practices, but used to connect entities via the internet in a wider area network, think WAN architecture. I hope you found this video informative. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel to support its growth. As I am a small content creator, and so every like and even subscribe if not already really does help push this channel further and further up the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you would like to see more content like this, it would be super fantastic if you could leave a like and subscribe to help support this channel's growth.